So, hello lovely OTs, it's your girl Nancy. I am back again with another video. Now this video we are going to be talking about independent levels. If you are an OT student or if you're an OT, you know all about the independent levels. That's like our Bible, not our Bible, but that's like our thing in OT. Like, we have to know independent levels. If you want to be an OT, you have to know what independent levels are. The independent levels is basically what we use to describe what level our patients are and as far as what kind of assistance that they need at that particular level. Okay, it's basically like our code words in OT to kind of basically tell you what level the patient is without actually like saying it, what they can or cannot do. Okay, so if your patient so I'm going to start from 1 to 7. So number 1 is total assistance. So what does it mean if I tell you my patient is total assistance for whatever the activity is? So total assistance for lower body dressing, for example, then basically means that my patient is able to do less than 25%, or maybe they can't do nothing at all with that particular task. So basically that's what total dependence means. Okay, if your patient is maximum assistance, which is number 2 on the list, on the 5th list, then basically your patient is able to do 25% or more with that particular activity. So if it's upper body dressing and your patient is maximum assistance, basically that means that they are able to do 25% of the task or more. Okay, or a little bit more. That's what that means. And this also means that they need some kind of physical help to allow them to complete that task. So right there and then it tells you a lot about your patient. Okay, if your patient, number 3, if your patient is moderate assistance, basically means that the patient is able to do 50% of the task or more than 50% of the task. So whatever it is, lower body dressing, if it is toileting, if it is functional mobility, whatever the task is, your patient is able to do 50% of the task or more by themselves, and then somebody else have to help them complete the task with the other percentage. If number 4, if your patient is minimum assistance, okay, with whatever the task is, whatever it is, then basically means that the patient is able to complete 75% more of that particular task that you're doing with them. So whatever that means or what that looks like for you, 75% the patient is able to do, and then the 25% you have to do it for them, or show them how to do it, or teach them, or show them techniques, but they need help, physical help. Okay, if your patient is, number 5 is supervision. If your patient is supervision, basically means that they still need to be supervised. Most of the time when I grade a patient as supervision, it basically means that the patient has some kind of safety issue that's going on. So they need to be supervised when they are completing dressing, when they are toileting, when they are transferring. They need someone to supervise them so that they are safe and they complete the task safe. So I know I have a lot of patients who I would say they are supervision with all ADLs. Basically mean they are able to do it. However, because of maybe a cognition problem or whatever the case may be, that it makes them supervision. So basically it's a safety thing when I grade my patient as supervision. Now, apart from these numbers, sometimes you will also see contact guard assistance and standby assistance. They don't really talk about, like, depending on what book you're reading or what article, sometimes they don't even say anything about contact guard assistance or standby assistance, but I think that they are important, so I'm going to talk about them. If your patient is contact guard assistance, basically means that you have to have some kind of contact with the patient. So most of the time, if my patient is contact guard assistance, I have a belt, I have a gait belt around them, and my hand is on the belt. I'm not necessarily touching them, but my hand is on the belt, which the belt is on them, so technically I'm kind of holding on to them. And most of the time I do this also with a lot of my patients who have balance problems, who may have vertigo and stuff like that. Okay, maybe they can do the transfer, but sometimes because of vertigo, sometimes because of balance issues, I always want to hold on to them just in case they stumble and they almost fall, that I always have a hold on to them. So if your patient is contact guard assistance, it tells the other person that you need to watch out for them. You need to have your hand very close to them on the gait belt because they might stumble and they might trip or stuff like that. Okay? Standby assist. If your patient is standby assist, I would say that you have to be very close to them as well. But the name kind of tell you what it is, standby assist. So the patients may need some assistance depending on what it is that they are doing and for the reason why they're doing it. So currently I have a patient that's standby assist for ADLs. And basically I stand there, I watch him do what he's doing, and if he needs assistance with like reaching for things or whatever the case may be, then I will be there to assist them. So basically they still need a physical being to be there while they complete the activities. I don't have to be holding on to them. I don't have to physically do it for them, but I'm there as needed, basically, is what that is. Sometimes you may be there to give them some kind of verbal cues, maybe some tactile cues sometimes, but most of the time you're just there if they need help. Number 6 on this list is modified independent. Now, whenever I grade my patient as modified independent, most of the time it's because this patient is able to complete the task. However, they need some kind of adaptive equipment in order to do so. So I don't have to physically be there. The caregiver don't have to physically be there, as long as they have the adaptive equipment that they need in order to complete the task. So, for example, if your patient has a knee replacement, and because of that, they kind of limit it, okay? They have some precautions and stuff like that, or hip replacement or whatever the case may be, so they have some kind of precautions. And because of that, they need a reacher to reach down because they can't bend over, or they can't reach top because of back surgery that they just had. So then you want to give them a reacher, you want to give them a long handle sponge, you want to give them a sock aid, a shoehorn, stuff like that, so that they are able to complete the task. If my patient is able to complete functional mobility, which is basically transferring from one surface to the other, or ambulate, but they need a walker, he is modified independent. He is not independent in my book, because without the walker, without the reacher, and all of that adaptive equipment, the patient will not be able to complete that task by themselves. So that's what makes them modified independent. Okay? They need a device, period. If your patient is completely independent, that basically means that your patient is able to complete the task on time. The patient is safe when they complete the task. They don't need an adaptive equipment to complete the task. Nobody needs to be there for them to complete the task. They are safe. They are timely. They are able to do this task by themselves. If you ever have a doubt the patient is not safe, they can complete the task, they need time to complete it, they need something to complete it, then they are not complete independent. Okay? So just keep those factors in mind when you are treating a patient. Also, another thing with the independent level is that a lot of the manual muscle testing, so the strength of the patient is, and also the range of motion of the patient, the sitting balance, standing balance, all that stuff. If you guys want me to go over that stuff too, let me know down below, and I'll make a separate video and talk about like manual muscle testing. I'll talk about balance levels and all of that stuff, because sometimes they can really give you a hint as to what level or what FIM number that your patient will be. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this kind of educational type of video. If you guys want me to continue to do a lot of these videos and really break down a lot of the different things that you have to know in OT school, let me know what you guys want me to talk about down below. Okay, like, comment, and as always, subscribe, and make sure that you guys follow me on all my social media platforms, Lovely OT, especially that particular channel. I want you guys to make sure that you guys follow me on there, because I want to do a lot more on that Instagram page. Okay, so Lovely OTS on Instagram. And you guys know my email. Send me emails, DM me, let's be friends on YouTube, and I'll see you guys later in another video. I love you guys so much. Bye.